the screen, right? Okay, all right. So its course name is Mobile Application Development, course code BAIT 2073, right? So it's one of the elective, right? So the synopsis basically is this one, right? So, well, based on the name itself, you know, you're going to be learning how to create mobile application, right? So let's go straight to this one, course learning outcome, right? So course learning outcome in terms of this syllabus, there are three, okay, 0, 1, 2, and 3, right? So how to look at this is basically the not only the course learning outcome itself, but the um, Bloom's level, right? Okay, so we have cognitive. Usually cognitive C3 is the level by which if there's any tests it's conducted, yeah, right? And it maps to your program learning. So mapping between course learning and this program learning is available in your handbook. You refer to your handbook to see the mapping on, right? PLO, PL3, and PL4. Now, before we move on, I notice here the prerequisite, okay, is BACS 2023 object-oriented programming, right? So in order to take this, you have there's this prerequisite. Have you guys uh, so, done this part, this one,
Yes.
object-oriented programming?
Right.
Have you taken this object-oriented programming before?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
done already. Yeah, that means already passed this one, right?
Yeah.
I confirm with you guys. You have to let me know. Noel.
Yes.
Okay, so Farah as well.
Yeah.
Kelvin.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So we proceed. Yeah. Right. So C3 usually is cognitive bloom, means up to we start with level 1 to 3. So only up to 3. Yeah, that's okay. It means it's not that difficult. Yeah. So this P4 and A2 is usually for assignment. Usually that means you have assignment for this course. Okay. Right. So it's this P4 means that means your assignment you have to do mobile app, I guess, yeah, right. Check the mapping, right? The mapping for CO1 to PLO, okay, 2, 3, and 4. That it maps to your program learning outcome, right? So apply mobile and development methods to solve a given problem. Okay. The second one, apply mobile development methods to develop. So here it specifically say that you need to develop, right? So that's how you know at the end of this course, you know how to develop a mobile app, right? And then this is presentation, okay? Presentation of your application. All right. So you can see the way we measure the course learning outcome number one is test and exam and practical assessment, right? And for CO2 and 3, affective and psychomotor means hands-on, and also your affectives usually involve your emotion, yeah? So it's measured by your assignment for you to by completing your assignment, right? So this basically lays out to you what is the outcome expected if you take this course, right? Right. So what you will learn in terms of lifelong learning, transferable skill means you can use the skills that you learn in this course in other fields. Yeah. So you gain cognitive skill, thinking skill about the technical details about mobile app, how to create all this, right? So you learn the technical skills there, and by doing the assignment, you will learn interpersonal skills. No? It means how you work together in your assignment. Right. So the content, I'll just go briefly. The content, not necessarily this is mapping to week, okay, up to the lecturer and how how to divide the syllabus in the 14 weeks. Yeah. Right. So let's just go the content. Uh, you are going to be introduced at the beginning. You're going to introduce to mobile application development, right? The mobile operating system and its ecosystem, right? So when you are developing the app, you're always aware of the platform, yeah, the platform itself, right? So that means the skills. Usually, you write your application in Windows so far. Even web application you develop in Windows. Now you are still going to use Windows to develop your app. Usually we use Windows lah, but depending on your toolkit, yeah, right? Some developers prefer to use Linux, Linux operating system, but it doesn't matter because usually toolkits are available for both platform, whether Windows or Linux. And there are also the third category of uh, developers that would like to use Mac, right? The Apple Mac to develop. Doesn't matter which one lah, but as long as the toolkit's available, right? But to target your application to run on mobile, okay? Normally you will use emulator, okay? Because it's very tedious to have the development cycle. The development cycle for me is you write your code and then you will compile it and then you execute, debug, and the cycle continues, right? Okay, so if your debug cycle is your development cycle involve a real mobile, that will slow you down, right, a lot. Okay, so usually um, for development tools, toolkit include emulator. Most probably it will include emulator. So while your development is ongoing, the result of your compilation will be and also for debugging purpose will be running as an emulator. Basically the toolkit will um, emulate a mobile phone, right? And when you target, you have to select which mobile phone. Okay, so as you know, there are two major competing mobile platform, right? So the mobile platform are Android and Apple. Okay, so I think this course will definitely be on Android, but it's not mentioned here. Let me see. Usually, yeah, here. Usually the toolkit is mentioned in the syllabus. So you can see here this part, identify special requirement resource to deliver the course. You can see that the IDE that you're using will be, as mentioned here, Android Studio. Android Studio, I just let you know first. Hopefully, we will gain access to our lab already because Android Studio, my experience, because I've dabbled around with the Android Studio before, and also I also already um, look after projects, a student project which using Android. I've one student before doing FYP and also um, another student doing master's project. And one thing that I've noticed that they need powerful machine, right? Um, to run Android Studio so that it doesn't lag, right? So if you want to prepare, um, the most important thing is not the CPU, it's the memory requirement, right? I think if you want to have your own machine, PC or laptop, I think minimum should be, to me lah, personally, although the syllabus doesn't tell you, right? And to me, to do comfortable, okay, comfortable way to develop is when your system is not lagging. So I just let you know first, prepare. If you have a minimum 8 gig RAM, your own personal machine, right? You should feel comfortable lah, right? Uh, as you know, I believe Android is also written using Java, if not mistaken. So anything emulated like that, just like the NetBeans. But to emulate the emulator, okay, emulate the emulator for the Android phone, right? Maybe Pixel, or they emulate it from inside Android Studio. They emulate the phone so you can run your app in the as a simulator, and then that's it, right? Only when you, of course, you can create the application and side load to your Android phone. But as I mentioned before, uh, during development process, it's a bit tedious to do that because it's involved a lot of going to and from the development machine to your real phone. So usually, um, what we do is we do use emulator lah. So the cycle for development is shorter, so it's not too tedious. But if we have access to the lab face to face next semester, um, we'll try to get you the our first lab. I think has got a powerful machine with enough RAM to for you to use lah, right? So the one I mentioned is for you if you, let's say, because assignment, right? Sometimes you at home, you want to continue on doing your assignment. So if you're at home, I believe at gig RAM is the bare minimum so that it doesn't lag too much, right? Okay, so at gig is minimum that you should have lah, right, on your own machine, right? If you want to do at home the assignment, because a lot of students want to do at home also, the time in the lab is not enough, right? So just to start off to tell you the requirements for Android Studio, you can go to an Android Studio website, all right, and you can see their recommended, um, recommended specification for the machine to run. In fact, they should have a minimum, maybe lower than what I mentioned, but through experience lah, it's very laggy if you, especially if the RAM. But if you have a modern machine, especially with the SSD, that helps a lot. That helps a lot. Okay, so because a lot of complaints I get from students when they're doing this is this very laggy. It's very whenever they do the cycle, the debug coding cycle, it gets to do you get to do it very very often, and then if the system is lagging, it's just a little bit disrupting your workflow lah. That's all, right? In terms of whether Android Studio can run, yes, of course can run with below 8 gig lah, maybe 4 gig. It can run, but a bit laggy lah, right? But for our lab, more than sufficient. I think one of the lab has 16 gig so RAM, so should be more than capable. All right. So you learn about the mobile OS, the Android lah, and its ecosystem, meaning anything to do with the Android. I don't think we're going to use the latest generation Android as our target platform lah. Okay. Because I believe even the developers in the industry also learning what to include for the next gen being Android 11. So you might be depends on the on the course material, but I don't expect the Android 11 like that lah. But doesn't matter if you, because the API is just being updated. So even if you learn on Android 9 or 10, definitely your knowledge can be uh, very quickly updated to include any APIs introduced in Android 11, right? So you learn about the mobile application model, the activities, event handling. You will notice that there will be a slight difference in how the uh, mobile app, in terms of the technical details, how it operates within the Android operating system compared to the typical program that you've written so far. Another thing that is by default, your application will have GUI. That means graphical user interface. Okay. Um, so far, have you guys written any application that involve graphical user interface, like an app that has GUI? I think for web app, yes, you have the all the buttons, right? So if you've done web app before, okay, very similar lah. You have to design the UI, okay, and again, depending on the material covered, I believe the content will also introduce you to the standard UI for Android development lah. Okay, very important for mobile app is that the UI is standard, because your target user already familiar with how a standard UI. So usually we'll follow the material, Google material guidance for UI. Okay, uh, how you design the UI, you have to follow. If not, your target user will be confused because your UI is different from other mobile app that they're used to, right? So it's very important for that part. So you have the flexibility to design your UI, but then you have the standard to adhere to. Meaning to say, um, where's your placement for your buttons, your buttons, where your placement for your hamburger menu, things like that. All this should be following the expectation of the user, right? So unfortunately, Google already produced that material design concept that developers should adhere to, right? So when you have GUI, that means you have your workflow in the application is no longer straightforward. That means it's now more event-based. That's why object-oriented programming is uh, is a prerequisite, because you'll be using that concept when you're writing your mobile app. You'll be using the technique you learn about object-oriented programming. Okay, so that means it's probably going to be a Java-based, yeah, Java-based lah, right? So activities and event handling, basically what happens when user interface is interacted on. So if I click a button, okay, what event will be triggered, and means your code will execute, for example, right? And linking activities simply means the workflow inside your app, application lifecycle, from the beginning to start until you end. Another thing that in Android, right? I think you guys know the energy requirement for your application is more stringent compared to app running on a desktop machine. Okay, because of this, uh, if your application is running and it's being sent to the background, right? Um, it's no longer running as you used to, okay, in a desktop environment, right, where the power requirement is not as stringent, yeah. So you find that sometimes the Android OS will put your application to sleep. Okay, so you're going to learn about all this. Here is the part where I talk about the user interface. So you learn how to create the user layout, identify all the UI components. Input events means when you create the GUI um, controls and user interact with them. So you tie those control and event associated with those controls with your code. Okay, right? So we call those triggered controls as events lah, linking to events. Okay, you learn about menus, dialogues, and notifications. These are standard lah because you'll be using the API, right? By Google, so it should be standard, right? Resources and data storage. Um, on a web application, very restrictive in what the client side can access. Basically, it's bounded by the browser, so you can't really access uh, the users, local storage, right? In web application, what you have access to is the server side. So in a mobile app also, you'll learn about that your application will need to have rights. Okay, and if that includes there are certain storage local storage area that by default your application have access to, right? But there are other areas where your app is limited or not authorized to access. So you learn about these resources and data storage. All right, you will learn that there are many ways for you to interact with database. Okay, and there are many ways application employ database. One of the things that you can't deploy on a mobile app is a database. Okay, you can't install a database like what you can do on a PC. Yeah, but you can do a localized and light version like SQLite. A lot of Android apps, basically, if they want to store, depending lah, if they want relational database, then they will use SQLite, right? But if it needs power like a typical DBMS, then they will access it remotely. Normally, we always see that the architecture, if you want a client server architecture, the server being typical web server, okay, like in a web app, right? You have the backend, but now instead of the browser as a client, you have your application, right? Your Android application as the client. So how your client connects to the backend, just like the browser connects to the web server in a web app, your Android client also connects to the server, okay, remote server, right? There are many ways developers do this, yeah. Either you typically send remote calls to execute SQL on the DBMS to retrieve data, okay, or you can in the back end side you can create services like REST services or JSON services that expose data only via these services, whereby your mobile app can then connect to these services and get the advertised data, right? So you can't simply use SQL. I think this is the more popular ones currently ongoing. How developer connects the mobile application to the backend data at the remote server, right? So that's why you can see here, you learn about internal storage, external storage, database, and network background operation, right? Right. And then, of course, with one thing that all mostly modern mobile device has, yeah, smartphones, yeah, is the sensor, and typically the GPS sensor, right? On a normal PC, you get the approximation of your location by the network access. But on a mobile device, you have access to via the Google's API. You have access to the sensors available on your mobile app. Okay, there are a lot of capabilities lah. The cameras, all the sensors that you have. But one of the life-changing one, I believe, from my point of view, is the GPS sensor. So that allows your app, okay, to use the map API, right? So here, location-based services means whether your app will have access to maps and also your location data, means interact with the GPS to get your location, then interact with a mapping service in order to present to the user uh, via UI lah, right? Where the user is in terms of location. So you have a section that works on location-based services lah, right? And it's all accessible via API lah, provided by Google, right? Right, and then as mentioned before, cameras, audio capture, media playback. This mobile device are, although very small, they have a lot of facilities like instrumentation and devices that you can access, right? So you can have access to the camera. Camera not only takes picture, camera also takes video. Camera also able to be used for identifying a QR code, right? A barcode, QR code, but usually barcode is not so popular. QR code is the most popular one. So a lot of times in my project, students, part of their project, they include the QR code because, for example, there's one student who creates an application that can not only easily create a menu, okay, for the user, but also create QR code to identify to the menu location that is stored offline. Not offline, online, right? So basically, anyone having the app can go around the hawker stall. The hawker stall can create menu themselves. There's templates and all this thing, and then after they create the menu, they upload the menu, right? And then they can simply just display the QR code, right? So people, if you go Pasar Malam, for example, instead of having to check a menu there is placed there, it's not very convenient. You just scan the QR code, and the QR code just identify the URL, basically, right? And then the app just show the menu for that particular hawker on the person's smartphone. So it's convenient for this kind of use case scenario. So having ability to access the camera brings up a whole lot of opportunities, right? Another student doing FYP last time was using the camera to detect what breakfast is having. Okay, using exactly the technique that you guys heard. Did you guys go to the talk recently on Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah, CNN, right? Convolutional neural network. So there's a library for that. Even if you don't know how to write what, you can just use the library. So basically, but you need to know how to apply that library lah. That means he use it to teach the neural network to learn about a few breakfast pictures, images lah, right? Depending on your data set lah. If the more picture you have, the better the recognition. But use the camera, take picture, example nasi lemak, and then use that as an entry, okay, a way to enter without typing. You can just take picture, recognize nasi lemak, and then your system. For example, because you have access to camera. Another student currently doing FYP is already complete lah. They were doing accounting system, a very simplified accounting system. Two of them in the group lah. But the AI part is that they can use the camera to capture receipt. So they capture the receipt, and the OCR part is the AI part, the optical character recognition part, to straight away pick up the total from the receipt, okay, and create an entry, okay, entry into the application. That's one example of use of camera, right? So it opens up a whole lot of ideas, lah, right? And then mobile application packaging and publication. This is the final part for deployment already, right? Okay, this part is deployment. Sometimes you create the app and then you want to sell it, right? And who knows, right? Um, because your market is global, even if you sell ringgit, if it's popular, 100,000 people download, 100,000. Of course, uh, I I don't count Google's punya cut lah, but just translate directly like that lah. One ringgit, 100,000, you 100,000 ringgit. Of course, not as simple as that. There is a cut from the Google Play App Store, but yes, monetizing, right? After you deploy, sometimes if it's your passion project, you might not want to, you want to provide it for free, okay? But maybe you want to develop application as a living, right? A freelance developer, right? Then maybe your one or two application is sufficient for you to make to make a living already. Who knows? There's a lot of apps now become make the company become multi-millionaire or billionaire, like um, like WhatsApp, Grab, all this. The idea behind, and then it can only work if there's an application on the mobile. All right. So that's basically a general view of what the content should have. Basically, uh, introduce you to mobile app development and until deployment, right? So hopefully, and I'm pretty sure all of you are thinking about this in terms of your project also, right? But it's also a good thing to have because nowadays a lot of software companies, they are into creating application because that mobile phone device is a single device that is actually just blew up lah. Everybody have a mobile phone, okay? And if you deploy on if you want to deploy a business idea, business model based on the application, you cannot ignore the mobile market, so mobile app, okay? Of course, you have to still consider later on whether you want your mobile app to be portable because you have it's segmented into two basically, the Android mobile market and the Apple mobile market, right? But with this knowledge on this course, I believe you can then move on to more platforms lah. There are not only one way to write a program in Android. You have other ways, other frameworks, and so on. Okay, but here we introduce you with the easiest one to get your teeth into lah. Right afterwards, then you can go for the more advanced framework. Okay, right. All right. So apart from that, these are you can see all the available online, all the references available online. Okay. Any questions?
Sir, how's the assignment? Is it individual or group?
Usually, most assignment, I've never seen assignment as individual,
Oh.
right? So when and a big hint is here, interpersonal skills, right? So you have only 14 weeks. I think if you are asked to do an application, not a trivial one, a proper application, not too complicated, but not also trivial. I think for one person to do will be too much because you're still learning, right? You cannot from week one straight away start develop, right? So you need to learn step by step, and then I think just around about here, maybe, then you start to uh, know a little bit more in order to write the application. So one person to be able to do all the entire application, I think is too heavy also lah, right? But at the same time, usually our program is also taking care of your interpersonal skills. Later, because nowadays all the companies, they really emphasize on the soft skill, the ability for their, if they hire you, that you are able to work with your workmate at work, but also deal with clients, deal with, all this needs interpersonal skills. And to just let you know, if you're not an outgoing person, your personality, here is where you can practice it with people you can trust. So like Noel and Kelvin and Farah, you already been together quite a while, so you guys know each other very well. So that means you can practice interpersonal skill between each other, right? So because when you go off to work, this really, you have to really have to practice what you've learned on this interpersonal skill. So thereby, a lot of the assignment will be group project, okay, to tackle two things lah, so that it's not too heavy for individual student, the work. Also, more importantly, allow you guys to work together to fine tune, okay, your interpersonal skills, right? How to work with each other. Because so far, when I look at students going for internship, even internship, they have to work together. They're given individual tasks, but in order to do the individual tasks, they're actually part of a team. There's one here, you peso company in near Imago. There is an international company actually, but they set up their branch in Malaysia, in here in KK, right? We have alumni there working. We also send in a student who wants to work with that company there for internship, and they work in a team. They have basically two teams: one developer team, one testing team. So the developer team will provide them with the latest code, and then the testing team will test it. And then every week they have to present together. They have to present to the developer team their findings, like bugs and all these things. What they did, what are their test metrics, and what they did, and all the bugs and all these things. And the developer teams will sit in that room. It's like a meeting room. They sit around, and then the testing team present their finding every week, right? And that means you need to learn how to work with other people. So group assignment is one way for us to give you that practice. Yeah. Okay. Noel, sorry, we already reached. I've already taken up some of your time. We'll continue this again. This discussion very important, obviously. Um, Later at our next session at 12 o'clock. Now it's already 11. I don't want to take any of your
Okay.
time. All right, so I'll see you guys. We'll continue this discussion, Noel, Kelvin, and Farah. If you think of any questions you want to ask again later, let me know and we'll discuss it. All right, so I'll see you guys at 12. Okay.
Okay.
All right, we'll continue. Uh, Yeah, we're going to continue what we discussed earlier on. I just want to confirm again a final confirmation so that I can confirm the lecturer, select the lecturer to tell the lecturer about the mobile app, that you guys have gone through the prerequisite. I'm just worried about prerequisite. If prerequisite is not settled, that means you cannot take. So that means, can I confirm again? I will check later, but I just want to know now so I don't have to worry about it. The object-oriented programming VSCS 2023, all of you already taken and passed the course, right? Yeah, Farah.
I just checked my result. Actually, I didn't pass all the but the object project programming.
Project-oriented programming, yeah, basic
Yeah.
2023. All right.
So
So
so it's like it's okay if they to just continue with the mobile app and I repeat or how?
okay. So in this situation, um, let me confirm with our faculty, right? How
Okay.
is the situation like? Okay, so I'll come back to you on that. All right. And also, of course, Noel and Calvin, because you might be also thinking what's the situation. So I will have to confirm this with our faculty, see what's the best way to do this, right? Um, the problem is because there's only small number of you, so maybe we can move on with the mobile app and then fairer. Let's see what's the option, fairer. Yeah, I will consult first with our faculty. All right.
Okay.
So in any case, you will need to do this another elective the semester after next semester, and the pool of elective also come from the same pool, yeah, EG02. Okay, so in any case, I will go through very quickly each of the options so that you guys at least even next semester uh, you still have to select after next semester. Sorry, still have to select another elective, right? From the pool. So of course, those that you have already taken, you cannot retake anymore, right? You can take the other elective from the remaining one, right? So let me just share my screen here. So I'm just gonna briefly inform you what are the other options. Okay. Remember this that maybe next semester after next semester, since you still have to select another elective, then we might have another meet then lah, right? But at least you have an idea. Maybe you think about it before then, right? So this is one of the elective software quality assurance and testing, right? So this is basically under software engineering lah, field, right? Um, and for this one, right, you learn about software testing in detail because some of the companies out there, when they hire a developer, one of the tasks they assign the developer is to basically do system testing. And this happens with large software, right? Large software where you need a team to do development and another team to do the testing, yeah, right? So you learn about testing, software testing life cycle, uh, and you learn about the different types of testing available. So here you can see that on the screen, the unit testing, module testing, integration testing, system acceptance, critical path, GUI, regression, error handling. They're all aspect of testing different parts of your application. So very briefly, unit testing basically unit is the smallest number of a group of codes that you can write, yeah, for the tasks need to do, right? Where you for your reusability, you put those group of codes together, right? Maybe function, maybe procedure, maybe module, methods. Okay, no matter what kind of language, programming language you use, the smallest amount of group of codes that you can test, they perform one task, right? So the idea is you should do the unit testing so that you can ensure the bigger task that is composed of all these smaller unit of codes, right? It's easier to test because all the small component of the larger piece of code already been tested. Okay, so this is the idea basically. So as you can see, it just from there it just get testing at the higher level, higher level, higher level. The lowest level you do is as a that basic group of codes to perform just one task, one simple task, right? And then you unit test that. And then the units may be combined together to form a module. So you do module testing. Module is just a generic representation of in the specific language implementation. You might find methods. You might find uh, you might find a function. Different language have different naming convention lah for those module, right? So you can imagine. So if the smallest functional component is a function, then what is the unit? Maybe inside the function, you have three tasks you need to do. So that means the unit can be one of the tasks you do. Normally we build a test harness. We take that piece of code, put into the test harness, then we test it. Make sure you test all the boundary condition, all the different type of input into that unit. Then you test, right? So now all the units being tested, then you test the function or module as a whole when they work together, right? Then after that, the module all link to each other, right? So integration testing, right? And the thing is, sometimes modules are written by different programmer, different groups of programmers. So this is when the interface between the module are being tested, thereby integration testing, right? And then we go a higher level, the whole system is tested, okay? Because the input and output, when you go from unit to module to integration to system testing, is slightly different. When you go to system testing already, the input basically is, a different set of data, okay? Then acceptance testing is when you send the code over to the user, so the user will test it themselves, okay? And then if it's everything okay to this, they're satisfied with the code, then there's no bugs yet, then it will pass the acceptance testing. Then you have critical path testing. Critical path refers back to your project. So in order for one, because the development of software follows this project planning, usually the Gantt chart, and you have a critical path in a Gantt chart. So that means the pieces of code that must pass before the next development can start, right? Gui testing is basically on the client side lah. How the user interact with the application. So you test your idea, you design ideas, so satisfy the user requirement, right? Regression testing basically if you have an update, you fix a bug, you have a new update or modification, then you need to test that. That's called regression testing. Finally, error handling testing. For all the testing, you still probably not entirely 100% sure there's no bugs, right? So when there's error happening, the error has to be handled. So this part of the testing tests that error handling capability of the program. For example, it's not acceptable maybe for you that when your program encounter an error, you just simply crash and abort. You want the program to be able to handle the exception and continue perhaps from there, right? So you want to test the error handling capability of your application, right? And then different the types of tests you can conduct: static testing, dynamic testing, white box, black box testing. Um, Basically, white box means you can see inside the box. You know what you're testing, right? So you design your tests in accordance to that. Black box means you have no idea what's inside the box. It means inside the function you don't know. You test the API only, right? You test based on the information given to you, right? Because you have no idea how the code inside the function, the module, whatever, it's black box. So your testing strategy is different. So black box testing. And then and so forth lah. Of course, the testing and reporting of the tests, okay, and you'll talk about software quality assurance. Certain application are critical, critical application. So you want to assure your, you know, users that your software has reached a certain quality. So software engineering, there is actually you know, there's a body that looks after certified professional who are software engineers, and one of the certification is actually under software testing, right? And ability for you to test your software up to a certain level is part of software quality assurance, right? Right. So that and then these two parts talk about that. So that comes under here, right? In fact, even if you're not a software engineer, a software developer, the knowledge you gain from here ensures that the software you produce, okay, if you follow the way the systematic way of doing software testing, the software you produce later, okay, definitely will be high quality. All right. Uh, if you have any questions, just let me know, right? And I'll start and explain. Right. So the next one I want to talk about is the advanced database management. Right. So basically, you've learned database before, so this just brings that knowledge to the next higher level, right? So a lot of things you're not taught before because it's considered as advanced level. So, but you just have a look at the information here. Develop relational database, integrity constraints, security control. I believe maybe you've studied a little bit about the integrity and security part of your database in a prior database course, yeah. Right. Design solution, looking at efficiency and effectiveness, right, of your solution. Then again, more advanced SQL query construction, right? It means using uh, advanced levels SQL commands lah, right? So far you use SQL that's involved with CRUD, right? There are other SQL commands basically. You have assignment and test and exam for this course, right? Again, emphasis is on digital and cognitive skills, right? So you can see you're because you have database knowledge earlier on is based on a single database, not considering multi-user or distributed nature of possible distributed nature of database, right? So here we are moving into enterprise level database requirement, right? So as you can see, we're actually going to look at it, but in as relate to higher level requirements, lah, right? But there are some overlap, of course. Still going to look at some, you know, decomposition, functional dependency, right? But advanced version of it, lah, right? Query language SQL, right? It's basically cover on SQL as well. Now you're going to look at the concepts behind databases, right? Whereby before you just use the whatever you're provided, learning how to use database. Here you learn more about how the database is constructed, right? Which database use which algorithm to basically implement the DBMS, right? So you see the difference between index, hash, signature files, B-trees. All these are actually ways to implement the the technical details are behind the scene, how the database works basically, right? And previously you learned also about transaction, but here maybe you focus a little bit more detail on transaction processing, right? Certain uh, updates involve multiple files, lots of records. So in order to the database maintain its integrity just in case in the middle of the processing, yeah, something happened, right? Crash or something happened, right? So you need the capability to roll back the state of your database back to before you start the transaction, right? If nothing happened, then you can basically after transaction you commit the transaction results. Why we need to have transactions because it involves multiple tables, multiple records. Okay, so usually when you're doing the transaction, all this will be locked. Okay, all the involved, huh? Right? And then, as I mentioned before, so far you learn about usage of database for like it's multi-user, but usually application-wise you're thinking about one person using it, right? But actually, of course, database are meant to be multi-user, and there's another concept in terms of having a fail-safe for your database. If you store your database in one server, if that server goes down or that server something happened to that server, all your data will be lost. Maybe you do backup, so you have to restore. But what about downtime? So there are, at a high level, there are ways to ensure, right, the continuity of your application running. If one of your database storage is down, so we start to talk about distributed database here, and mostly in the enterprise uh, um, usage, most industry use distributed database, right? So that means your database is distributed in terms of the location, and then so of course when it's distributed, how do you make it consistent? How do you uh, how do you provide the transparency as if the user is accessing only one database, but actually the data is stored in many remote different areas? Okay, so all about distributed databases, data storage, query processing, transactional model, right? All right, so here, right, is the practical aspect. So you learn about procedures that can be stored, to simplify certain queries processing. Processing that is you identify as a database manager, administrator. You identify certain database processing is repeating. So instead of putting it on the developer to keep creating the query, you as a system database administrator can create localized processing, in your database, and then you open this up as a service to your what lah. So from the developer point of view, they need certain data, they get the data, right? The query, the complicated query, the whatever for transaction or whatever can be actually stored as a stored procedure at the database site. Okay, so basically the processing now is done at the database site, right? Especially updating multiple tables, right? So it's a consistent, tested way to update the database so that other developers that want that data don't introduce errors at their end. So instead, they only consume the data, whereas the processing is done at the database. So you learn about this stored procedure at the database side. All right. So these are the practical aspect of that. Okay. Right. Different from if the client side do this SQL, right? Send the SQL to database execute SQL. So different developer will have different SQL. So as a database administrator, you identify, oh, these are the common processing that all developers do, but so you create a stored procedure and expose that as the API. And then when the developer need the data, they don't have to write their own SQL. They call that stored procedure, and the stored procedure return back the data to them. So it's a consistent way to access data or update data or do something on the database. Okay, but from the point of view of the DBMS. So this the topics are covered under uh, advanced database management. Any questions for this one?
So far, no.
No, huh? All right. So consider the, if you want to select, consider the fact that which one do you think bring most benefit to you guys, okay, in terms of knowledge and later on, you know, when you go to work, and at the same time, which one is most interesting, right, for you, okay, to learn, yeah? Which area or industry you hope to be in, then you select that, and which one, uh, basically, if you, for me, I select it based on my interest, lah, right? Okay, so the next one is Argyle software development, right? The traditional method of methodology of software development, the waterfall model and things like that, are actually created last time, very early in the 70s, 80s, already there. So sometimes, and people argue, especially the software developers, they argue that that technique, that way of developing software, sometimes it's not suitable anymore, especially of the current technology, current user requirement, right? The business model that well, the business model nowadays, there are exist business model that don't exist last time, right? So the business model, why I mentioned about business model, because the company that has the new business model, they probably need a new form of software, right? A different type of how the software operates, right? So that means developing that software, maybe using waterfall traditional life cycle model, is not suitable anymore. Why? Because it's very volatile. The software changes based on the user, especially like, imagine if that software is a social media software, right? And you know the user requirement comes actually partly from the ownership of that software, but also from the user. If the user suddenly something become viral, some features they want, like filters or this, suddenly you have to come up with it. So traditional way of developing software is like too slow to keep up to date with user requirements. So maybe you need a different way to develop software. So one of the different way is this agile software development method, right? You can see here meeting tight deadlines, building within budget. The traditional approaches are very plan driven, focus on documentation, and it's quite, for me, quite slow lah, quite slow. So traditional app, no problem, but there are certain requirements for the new app that doesn't exist before, that needs to be done quickly. Maybe the sometimes the features introduced, and then it's not popular, it's dropped, and another feature introduced. Because it depends on the current and always changing user requirement, and your user basically using your app very very demanding nowadays. You guys know, maybe you guys also one of the user, right? You don't like certain feature, you complain at the Google App Store or whatever, for example, and then you say, oh, we really love to have this feature, really love to have feature. So think about Microsoft, how they update their Windows operating system, right? Think how they release their Windows operating system last time and how they release it now. Now it's ongoing, right? The OS new feature, it's ongoing. So the waterfall model, it doesn't really suit anymore, because based on the release, twice release, okay, for the stable version, twice release in a year with the updates, not really suitable for, well, again, right? And they have an ongoing preview edition where users can put feedback, what the user like, what the user don't like, and this will filter down to the stable version. And you can see a lot of software working this way. Browsers, for example, Google introduce something, it's not popular, suddenly they drop it, right? So because of this changing requirements already, okay, for software, so we need a different model, different way to develop software. So Argyle is one of it. Okay, so in this course, you learn about Argyle software development methodology, right? You can see there's test, assignment, and then presentation for assignment and exam as well, right? So this course focus on cognitive skills, digital skills, and communication at the presentation lah, aspect of it. All right. So you can see lah, right? The comparison between Argyle's. Argyle is a methodology, but it's a way of looking at software development. It's a new paradigm of the change of ideas. So you can see Argyle values and principles. Because of these values and principle, this Argyle methodology is created, okay, invented to to help the software developers. So under this Argyle is just an umbrella, right? Under Argyle, you have extreme programming, this one DSDM and so forth, right? Which one is suitable for your team, right? And then it goes on to talk and how to deploy and use Argyle in your own project. So sometimes I see students, they do when they talk about their methodology. Okay, some student, of course, with a valid justification, whether they use the traditional one, waterfall, or they use Agile, right? In their project, finding a project, what kind of development methodology do they employ? Okay, okay. There's no hard and fast rule. Okay, it's only is if you can justify why you use certain methodology compared to another one. And of course, when you're developing, you will then use that way to develop your software. Okay, is that okay? Any question on this?
No.
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 Okay. Right. So from Argyle, I move to digital multimedia. All right. So this multimedia, multimedia, different media. Nowadays, internet is basically we already know that about this lah. But the internet is a source of multi different types of media. That means animation, graphics, including of course videos, audio, and all this. Right nowadays, users require, okay, all the different types of media they consume, and just look at the consumption of the different media from our user, right? Okay, so you may want to dive into this if you want to talk or work with development of media multimedia, right? So let's have a look here. Okay, so you will be assessed. Let's do this first, right? So you will look at the multimedia application technology and or what issues under that, right? And look at user requirements and design elements when you're developing a multimedia application, right? So if you ask me what is a multimedia application, traditionally I would say, oh, okay, so it's going to make a video player, whatever. They can, but nowadays, if you think about social media app, it is a multimedia app where people can share video, can share picture, can share audio, music, whatever different types of media. Okay, you can share. So nowadays, our instant messaging also not necessarily only instant messaging means text, but now it's also multimedia. You can send a video, you can send whatever different types of images, even GIF, yeah, GIF images. So you can see, because media consumption is for me, is the public obsession with sharing information using whatever different media uh, available. So when you are developing app later, definitely you'll be dealing with a lot of type of different medias because of the hunger, okay, public hunger, the user hunger on sharing and consuming media. All right. Right. So here, when you are developing a multimedia application, that you will look at what are the requirements and design elements needed, and then you demonstrate the application using media creation, editing, and authoring software tools. So you also design the media itself that is being consumed, okay, and being deployed by the multimedia application. Right. So let's have a look at the content very quickly. So of course, intro to multimedia, um, in terms of text, graphic, video, animation, sound, compression, very important because bandwidth is limited sometimes, and multimedia is quite bandwidth heavy, especially video, right? So and audio. So a way to allow transmission of video and audio within the limited bandwidth is using compression. So that's why there's a you learn about compression here, right? And then moving on to multimedia application development issues. All right, think these are the issues covered. Of course, copyright intellectual property is important because if you where does your app gets the media from, right? So not all media are available freely, although as a student we don't really bother right now, right? Okay, but for any of your assignment and any of your project, actually you have to be aware of that and perform citation, right? But cite where you get the media from, because of this copyright intellectual property, right? And then you look at multimedia authoring packages, what are available. Either it's open source or it's paid version, right? There's a lot out there. For I think for animation, I think Blender is still for open source, right? But you also have the popular industry one, and that's paid version, right? So enabling technologies and standard, latest technology and standard. For example, video. H.264 as a compression for video is, you know, it's been around, but the now that a lot of the industry is embracing H.265 HEVC codec, yeah, for compression of video, for example, right? Those are standards. So what about streaming standard? Well, you have the AAC, you have the MP3, you have FLAC, which is open, yeah, open standard. You have so many, right? So which one, right? You need to know all this if you are working with multimedia, because the representation of your media, okay, what standard are you going to use, right? Multimedia hardware technology, when you're dealing with multimedia, I tell you, you need a very powerful machine, this hardware, right? So example, for when Apple introduced its latest iMac, yeah, for design or creative people, right? Creative people, you can see it's uh, multiple thousands of dollars. The price, starting the minimum, I think starting is at 32 gig RAM. Uh, the specs are in terms of specs. Anyway, because you are dealing with media, needs powerful machine. Just to let you know, right? So getting to know authoring tools, software, creating multimedia applications, scripting, and testing and demo, right? So these are the coverage that comes under digital multimedia. Any questions on this one?
No.
No.
No, Noel and Kelvin?
This this is theory only.
There is a assignment, so I'm not sure what's the content of the assignment, but no, it's not theory only. There's hands-on. Yeah. If you want to know if there's a purely theory or not, when the Bloom level is C, cognitive, means it's theory. If there's a P, psychomotor, means hands-on, means there will be hands-on as well, practical aspect, right? So that's how you look at the content. Remember, so C is cognitive, dealing with your logic, yeah, with normally we assess using test exam, but when you're using your hands to or your body to work on it, doing practical, right? So then the Bloom's taxonomy level is using a psychomotor. They call it for P, psychomotor. There are three aspects of when it comes to learning, guys. Just let you know. First is cognitive, that treats the basically your technical know-how lah. Okay, the academic aspect. When you say academic, the thinking part lah, right? Critical thinking part. And then there's the psychomotor. The psychomotor, when involved learning, is affecting your hands-on capability. You basically do it, working with it, right? So whatever. So that means if you're programming, you're actually programming. You're typing something on the keyboard. You're developing. Yeah, the theory, the concept is the cognitive part, your brain part, thinking. Oh, right, the logic of the okay, the equation like this, okay, algorithm like this, so cognitive. But then actual translating that to the program, you're typing the program out, you're editing a video, you're doing something, right? That's psychomotor. The third part of learning is affecting your emotional. You cannot separate it. Okay, the emotional part of you needs to be developed as well. That means how you feel when you're doing it, right? When you're doing something, this one cannot be ignored. So that comes under affective, right? So basically, when you're dealing with people, and you cannot be entirely cold, just logic. Like in Star Trek, those Vulcan species, like Dr. Spock, everything is just logic, no emotion. But we are human, we have emotion, and sometimes emotion plays a very big part in our decision, in how we do work, right? Okay, so it governs how we interact with people, how we perform the presentation, how we do our work, right? So when that aspect is measured or is provided within the course, you will see it as A, affective. Is that okay? Kelvin?
Okay.
Yeah, all right. So that's a clue. When you look at the course spec, you look for these three course learning outcome, right? And this should mirror this. Cognitive always exam and test, right? And psychomotor affective always tested using assignment. You cannot test how you do in how good your hands on using exam, right? That's why. So we need to build something, build a software, then assignment, right? Then we test your psychomotor skill, right? And when you present and when you work with your teammates, then you can assess your affective skill, your EQ. So I will say that this one IQ in intelligence quotient, and then this part is the EQ, emotional quotient, the hands-on and also the affective part, right? All right. So 2033. Have I covered? That's digital multimedia. No question here. I can proceed. Yeah. Next is this one I talk all day with you guys. Mobile application development. and Internet of Things. All right, so Internet of Things is one of the buzzword you keep hearing, right, guys?
Yeah.
From industry and also from government. Why? Do any of you have any smartwatch?
Uh,
Um,
Watch? You know?
is
Uh,
like a watch that can detect heartbeat. Is that a smartwatch or how?
yeah.
Oh yes, have.
Yeah, have Noel, Calvin, or maybe you know
yeah.
family members
Yeah.
who have, right? So there are basically appliances, consumer appliances that is embedded with sensors. Okay, and you know sensors, they detect your, let's say, according to Farah, just now Farah already mentioned, detect your heartbeat, your heart rate continuously. It's generating data. Okay, the sensor keeps checking your heart rate, right? And then the heart rate data, if you just simply look at one snapshot, okay, now what is my heart rate? Then I wait 10 minutes. Now what is my heart? It doesn't really tell us anything, right? You need to collect and summarize, right? Your heart rate over the entire uh, period of time. Whether and the period of time is whether doing exercises, then you start to notice a pattern of your heart rate. If you're relaxing and your heart rate is still high, then I think something is wrong. Something is wrong, right? And if you're doing exercise and your heart rate is low, what does that indicate? So IoT, Internet of Things means, I give example as the smartwatch, but anything can be embedded with a sensor. My favorite example would be to water your plant. Okay, maybe you like plants, gardening. Your mother or your sister or your auntie like gardening, and what they a normal thing they want to do is to water the plants, right? But of course, in Malaysia, we always get rain, and sometimes in the morning you plant, and then suddenly at 9 a.m., 10 a.m., it rained, right? So, uh, example, okay, is that maybe you can use IoT. Means you have sensor that can that is linked to humidity, okay, and also have linked to maybe the cloud. Why need to link to the cloud? Why? Because in the cloud, the app may be running in the cloud, because at the edge, that means the sensor part there, there's no much computing power. It just transmitted over Wi-Fi, over the internet, go to the cloud. Because in the cloud, there's an application. This application have access to weather report, weather prediction, okay? All the various other prediction for today. Maybe is it going to rain or not? What's the maximum temperature? Whatever. Of course, your sensor also have this humidity and you know barometric pressure, also temperature sensor. The thing is, all this data is continuously being streamed to the, let's say, to the cloud, lah, right? To the cloud, and then your application in the cloud is basically going to summarize and analyze this data. And for what purpose? Well, simple matter of automating flowering your or watering your plant. Now you don't even have to worry about watering your plant because the system is clever enough with some AI analyzing and summarizing the data from the sensors and combining data from other sources like weather prediction report and all these things, right? Then the system can decide whether need to water your plant in the morning or not, or if need, the amount of water to plant to water the one amount of water needed to water your plant, right? So it can be automated, and normally it's a better it's a better than the human doing the watering, because human sometimes you just water the plant, don't even check the weather later got rain or not, right? So end up you waste your energy watering the plant, also maybe you water too much already, right? This is just one example. So this is what we call Internet of Things, because all the things are embedded with sensor, and since we not going to provide those things with high computing capability, we offload the computing capability to the cloud, right? So the sensors embedded in the things we use, right, sends all the data it sends, right, to the cloud to be processed and analyzed, and you know, the AI or the software in the cloud can then make sense of the data and give it back to us, right? So this is the Internet of Things, right? So for example, a smart city. Smart city means you don't want jam, all right? So all the traffic flow information captured by CCTV, right, can is sent to the cloud. The cloud process. Oh, all right. I noticed. You can see ways utilizing this data to inform you which path to go. But we go step further, right? The system has a feedback, which means when it detects there's a congestion, the system can then, using some AI technique, adjust the traffic light. You know, the traffic light when it goes green, red, amber, right? How fast it change? Usually by normal timer, right? Now it's no longer by timer. It depends on the congestion, right? The congestion, the system able to change the traffic light, timer, how often it change from green to red, and all this, and also to divert traffic based on traffic flow. This is an implementation of Internet of Things, and they implement this to create a smart city. This is one aspect, just traffic flow management. There are other things you can do, right? So this course basically introduces you to that, right? And this is the also of the future lah. I can tell you, once 5G comes in, you know, the transmission between the sensors to the cloud, yeah. Can you imagine if you have 5G connectivity, the kind of the amount of sensors now you can embed without affecting your bandwidth, right? So even your shoes, even your whatever, right, can be embedded with some form of sensor, right? And then of course sent to the cloud and then you will know. You will then can decide what, let's say, the way you walk, the system detect, because the sensor in your shoes, system detect, oh, you have a slight limp, I think got problem, huh? And then inform you to go and see doctor, or this contact your personal doctor. Oh, he's walking a little bit limping today, got problem, like that, you can do things like that. And the thing is, this is right, the market is ripe for innovation, right? People keep coming up with ideas, what to do, because this is a new thing, right? So again, you have affective and cognitive. So affective based on assignment here. Then you test and examination. So I can tell you, because I know this one, and probably if this one is offered, I'm teaching this one. The practical aspect will be using Raspberry Pi lah. Raspberry Pi with embedded Linux inside there, and then you learn to connect the Raspberry Pi with multiple sensors, and then you read using Python. You read all those sensors and upload to the cloud. And once on the cloud, you write a simple program to summarize the sensor values. That is the practical part. So you get to play with the Raspberry Pi, with Python, Raspberry Pi, and I think our Raspberry Pi is the one with the Growth Pi with all those sensors. So you can see here, that's why you learn to understand what is diodes, capacitors, transistors, LED. So that this basically introduce you to the sensors that is. So the best way is, but think about it, is you're prototyping. Like that means you take the sensors, connect to the Raspberry Pi, and then write a Python code to extract or to get the data from the sensors. When you got it, then your Python code can send those data, stream those data to the internet, and in the internet means you have an application in the server that receive all this sensor information, and then maybe write a simple app to display those sensor values, summary of them, right? Of course, the theory part you talk about, as I mentioned before, combined with 5G coming soon in Malaysia. Right now, we're in the process of converting to 4G, right? All 3G will be shut down already to 4G. 4G, because it's the next step before 5G, okay, to provide the infrastructure ready, okay, because 3G to 5G is too big a leap. So 3G to 4G, 4G to 5G, we are a bit behind, but we're getting there. I think Malaysia already specify the layout of our 5G, 5G lah, right? So it's been simply a replacement of 4G later, simple replacement between 4G. The infrastructure is basically almost similar. It's just that the protocol will be different, 4G and 5G. Right, so you will look at the application of IoT in manufacturing, retail, smart home, smart city, smart campus, right? I think some of students in KL, they actually do the planting one with the sensor, okay, to help to help um, to help them grow the plant better, right? So agriculture is also one of it. Have you guys seen how they grow plants nowadays on walls rather than horizontal? They grow plants vertically. So that means you have a lot of verticals. It's within a small space you can grow many more plants, but then you need a way to look after the plants. So again, IoT comes into it, right? Right. So as you can see, the abstract use case of sensors, actuators. Sensors detect, actuator is a way for the machine to interact with the environment. So wheels on a robot is an actuator. Okay. Robotic arm is an actuator. Okay. So if you click, maybe your phone control the switch. You click on, the switch turns on and ons the light, then the switch is an actuator, right? Right. So and then we look at challenges of IoT in terms of infrastructure and technology, privacy. Okay, of course, privacy. Your data is on, streamed to the cloud, right? Let's say from your health data from your smart watch, and then when it's in the cloud, who has access to it? Should be only you, right? So securing and ensuring privacy of your data, right? Uh, so involve policies and ethics, and also from the technical point of view, the standards and protocols to be used, right? So you can see here the lab application with IoT platform, build client programs, read data from the device, okay, read data from the sensor, right? So connect the development board is the Raspberry Pi to the IoT platform, which is the sensor, right? Then upload your sensors data into cloud, right? And then we look at the IoT stack, different levels of implementation of IoT, right? Got device, communication, platform, analytics, and solution. Solution basically is what you as the end user will see. Okay, the data is now presented to you in a form that you can understand, right? All right. So and then finally the practical part for the last lab is to do analysis and data extraction and present data in graph form. So for example, Farah, you open your app and you can see all your data being plotted your heart rate throughout the day, or while you're sleeping, while you're exercising, something like that. Something like that. That means you can now present the data in the forms of graph. Right? Interesting. This one, okay, for me is interesting because you deal with you can play around with the Raspberry Pi. Right? Any question on that? Internet of Things?
This one teach by Sir, right?
Yeah, definitely. This one I will be teaching it lah.
Okay.
Internet of Things. Oh, no question. I will move on to the next one. Which one? This one is system admin. All right. So this is if you take operating system before, right, and you deal with Linux.
Didn't deal with Linux, I think.
Oh, the OS deals with what? In diploma, our OS, the Linux is the practical part.
Oh wait, if in diploma have lah.
What about you guys? You guys in bachelor? Did you take OS already?
No.
First year? No, not yet.
No, don't have.
Oh, okay, okay. So this system administration will introduce you to Linux, lah. Huh? That means there are many different type of server operating system. Okay, system admin usually looks after servers. So only two lah popular, I think. Windows Server and a variation of Unix/Linux operating system for the server. And if you're system admin, a lot of the admin tasks that you need to do to configure for monitoring your servers, etc., you'll be using a lot of command line interface, especially with Linux or Unix system, right? Right. So here is basically you learn how to do this typical system admin tasks, right? So you can see we have cognitive, but we also have psychomotor and affective, which means there will be hands-on also, right? You can see a test, assignment test, and exam, right? And cognitive skills, ethics, and professionalism is the one that is going to be the skill that you can transfer, right? Because you're in a position of authority, if you're doing system admin. You know, have you ever thought who is the system admin looking after all the Google Google account?
Is it only one person?
No, not only one person. Different, I think different data center, different groups, different leader. They of course many because their data center is like a big warehouse. But have you ever wondered there will be someone that can access to all the data? Correct? So you want a trustworthy person to be in charge. I just tell you, Google, there was a case where a system engineer that can access to, this is a real story, you can Google it, have access to customer data, our data, basically in US, he was stalking this lady. So he was have access to the lady's Google whatever, right? So he's making use of the data to help him to stalk that lady, right? And he was got found out, of course, right? So that's why, as a system administrator, you can see ethics and professionalism here, because when you are in charge, right, you have access to data that no one else supposed to see, right? And so you need to be a trustworthy person to be a system admin, right? You have root access, basically, root access to the server, so you can do whatever. Okay, so that's why apart from cognitive skills, in this course you also will learn ethics and professionalism. If you're ever wondering why, how come ethics and professionalism, this one is system admin, but you need that kind of person with that kind of power, right? All right. So what do you learn inside? of course, system admin, you're in charge of creating user and group accounts, right? So if this one is using Linux, if it's using Linux, then you use shell command. So usually for Linux it's bash. For Unix, I think Unix also use bash command line shell, right? So administering user group accounts, setting up print server lah, printing. This printer will be shared. This is normally shared by the users lah, right? System services, network services, internet services like should be web server and email server. Security, right? Implementing Linux security, securing user account, and because you're a system admin, you're also in charge of monitoring the hardware. If there's any faulty, you have to, you know what to do. Like you get someone to replace it. If you want to scale up, maybe you see that your server is reaching capacity, you need to upgrade. Think all this lah, managing hardware and component. If you're sharing hard disk, you want fair division of hard disk storage to users in the network, then you learn about this quota, how to set up this quota. Right? And then if anything gone wrong, you also learn how to troubleshoot. Okay, Linux system hardware, network, and connectivity and security. Right? And because a lot of the online server, most popular one are of course the free version. So Linux server is very, very capable and very popular. So you need to also maybe learn a little bit about Linux installation, configuring it lah, right? And then for Linux, different from Windows, Linux, you can install Linux without any GUI. Whereas Windows, when you install Windows, GUI comes with it, right? Because Linux is open source. If you want to install the GUI part of the Linux operating system, you can choose which GUI you want, or you can choose to ignore using GUI, right? So that's why there's a separate part here where you are dealing with the graphical user interface, right? Normally, server is headless, meaning there's no monitor. So server usually installed because it's running services, and people normally do not interact often with the server. You remotely connect to it, and it's usually command line, secure lah, right? So you normally don't install GUI, okay, for Linux, right? But sometimes you do want to, for example, for very powerful workstation, then that's why you I think this section teach you how to do that lah. So let me just check. Yeah. So the practical part is Linux, right?
So this one, we need the virtual machine, or we just use the Linux
Up to you.
operation.
Yeah, up to you. The thing is, you can install dual boot. You can install if you have all machine, just install Linux on it, no problem. Or you want to use virtualization, you can use VirtualBox to install Linux virtual, or you can use WSL that comes from Windows built in. If you have Windows Professional, Windows 10 Professional comes with it. The WSL, if you enable it, you can download the Windows Store Ubuntu, right? Ubuntu, then you can have command line. If you have Windows 11 that comes with it, WSL version 2, that one will support GUI, okay? Linux GUI. Windows 10, I think only WSL, which means only support the command line. But a lot of the configuration here that you learn is based on command line. Because as an administrator, you don't go into the server room to manage the server once installed, right? You remote access to it, and usually remote access, you use terminal. That means you'll be using command line a lot. So a lot of the configuration here using command line access, shell access lah.
So
Okay.
WSL2 not necessary.
Not necessarily. It depends on how you want to install your Linux. It's up to you. WSL is for if you want for example, I show you this one because I'm teaching OS for diploma. They got Linux. Yeah, I just show you. I installed in my Windows terminal, but the Windows terminal I can run the Ubuntu which I installed from the Windows Store. In order to use the Ubuntu from Windows Store, you need to enable WSL. Okay, that is the layer of emulation. Not too heavy. VirtualBox basically emulates the entire system. Okay, so it's a bit heavy on the requirement. But the WSL just emulates the API for the OS. So let me just stop there and then okay, so basically this is my Windows terminal, right? So I configured it a little bit already lah. So by default it goes to PowerShell, but I can go to, yeah. So I've already configured. Once I install Ubuntu, I enable WSL and install Ubuntu from Windows Store. Then I have Ubuntu command line here, right? And this Ubuntu command line basically is a real Ubuntu, just that we don't have GUI, right? So, my work name cannot be found. Never mind. Oh, okay. Something wrong with my. I just run another one Ubuntu without the Windows terminal. I wonder what's the right. I think I did some configuration changes just before. Right now, when I show you the Ubuntu directly lah. So this is the direct. When you run Ubuntu, it goes straight to here. I'll just wait for it to load. My system is overloaded right now. Too many things.
So this one need a powerful PC.
No, not really, because mine is overloaded because I install a lot of services, testing a lot of services. Yeah, so nothing to do with the Ubuntu one. I'm learning how to do Docker, so I install Docker and all this thing into. So that's why I don't know why this is not working. I need to check why it's not working. In any case, when it did work, what you see is a bash command line. Another commander. Let me see. I open a command prompt instead. See whether I can. I think I have some configuration problem already. So sorry, I'll share with you guys later on. But when it was working, I was able to run the Ubuntu lah. No problem at all. But now seems like a problem, and my system is lagging. Close all this. I think it's lack of RAM now.
Then the laptop cannot use.
Can. Mine, I'm running a lot of services. Sorry, I didn't explain a bit more. I'm running a lot of services so it's taking out my RAM. So that's why it's struggling. Yeah. But of course, if you have like your laptop, how many gig?
Who?
How many gig? 4, 8,
Mine.
9 gig. 9 gig should be okay. But it's weird, 9 gig.
No, who's PC?
PC, okay. All right. So yeah, coming back to here, that means you learn Linux lah. You know Linux operating system. Okay, and any question for this one? System administration.
Mm,
Even if
so
you're
far,
not going to be system admin, you what you learn here will be helpful to you as a developer, and because you know when you're writing a web app, you need the host, and some of the hosts they provide you the easy way to configure your server, right? But some hosts actually give you a virtual environment whereby you can choose to install what OS, right? So that means you want to deploy your web application. So in the cloud, right? So infrastructure as a service means you can then select which operating system you want, whether you want Windows Server or Linux. Windows Server you have to pay extra, right? Because it's not free. So typically, normally you as a developer you choose Linux. Linux is free, so you install Linux. Then you need to administer the Linux operating system virtualized, right, in the cloud, right? So even if you're not working as system admin, if you're a developer and you're working with a client, your client wants your web app, nothing to do with the OS, right? But your OS needs to run there to support your web app. So you configure your Linux system. You have to install, maybe all your stacks are open source. So you install Postgres or MySQL as your database. And then you install web server Apache. Only after you configure this, you configure all the security that it ensure that it's all secure. Then you deploy your application, which is a web application, right? So in that scenario, knowledge about the system administration might be useful, right? So think about how the knowledge you gain is transferable, yeah? Because that's why this field is so good, right? Because you can apply what you learn into something else, you know, it is transferable, all the skills, right? Not necessarily put you in a box like, oh, system administration, so you have to be system administrator. No, right? The knowledge you gain from here can be applied to other things that may be related, not directly, but indirectly. Like I say, you're a developer, you want to deploy your application, you are choosing a host that provide you this ability to virtualize the operating system. So it means Linux. Then you want to administer, right? So, oh, you remember I learned system admin before, so I know how to do all the configuration, for example, right? Any question on this system administration?
No.
No, huh? Okay. Visual programming is not one of it, so let's skip that. Cloud computing. All right. So cloud computing again is one of the buzzwords you keep hearing. It's for many years already. Malaysia has not fully embarked on cloud computing. Why? Because a lot of from the Malaysian government point of view, they do not trust, I guess. They do not trust cloud computing when the cloud computing server is not located in Malaysia. Which means, for example, why have our healthcare joined the cloud computing revolution? You look at all if you think about it, hey, hang on, personal data center, yes, like our EPF system is based on personal. The EPF information is not stored elsewhere, but healthcare maybe. Huh? There's a lot of benefit to do cloud computing. Cloud computing not only include the deployment of your application. It includes the platform, like the OS you use. It includes the infrastructure, the virtualized hardware, right? So you can basically, if you go for cloud computing, then any one of the services, you can specify what kind of computing hardware you want. How many core? How much RAM? what SSD you want, HDD or SSD, and what's the capacity you want. Of course, you'll pay for it lah. But then they charge you based on what you wanted. Okay, so maybe the price for 8 gig server is cheaper than 16 gig server. But do you really need 16 gig? Or you can make do with 8 gig RAM. So this is a virtualized hardware, right? And cloud computing are able to provide you this. And once you select your hardware, then you can select which server, like I mentioned earlier on. You want Linux, you want Windows server, right? Then you can choose, right? And then after that, you can choose the database. If let's say you want to deploy database, right? And then you want continuous integration, meaning to say you can automate from your development machine. You press one button, it goes to GitHub. From GitHub, it goes to your cloud, and it's compiled, it's uploaded, it's straight away integrated into the live deployment. Okay, you can automate the workflow, right? Continuous integration, automate the workflow from your machine where you're doing your, you know, your your development. Press one button, everything automated. Now you see your web app is already running live, deployed already, right? You make changes, you update again, it perform it again, and then the changes is immediately live on your live website somewhere in the running on your own domain inside the cloud somewhere, right? Cloud computing is really powerful, actually, a powerful concept to develop application. And a lot of companies are eyeing this space, this cloud computing. They wish to have this if there's possible. Now, going back to Malaysia government, I think this year or next year lah, right? Next year or next year, I think they are negotiating cloud based in Malaysia. And when that comes in, I think a lot of the government facilities data should be able to deploy on the cloud, as long as the cloud is inside Malaysia itself, lah, right? Okay, this is just my from what I read in the news, lah. Okay. But yes, in terms of for businesses, cloud computing is, I can tell you, they want to move into this. No one's want to look after their own data center anymore, except for banks lah. Banks, finance company, they want to have their own data center. They have the money to do that, because they have control. No one can access it. They're very scared of being hacked lah, right? So those are bank, right? In fact, even with the controlling their own data center, they still get hacked. So, so I think it's just a matter of trust at what level and what kind of data you keep. But for most other businesses, cloud makes sense, right? So that's cloud computing. Let me see. We have cognitive and affective. So there's assignment, test, and exam as well, right? And cognitive and communication skills. So this is the soft skill. This is the critical thinking part, the cognitive skill. Right. So what is inside that? Right. So introduction to cloud computing. Right. So you can see cloud deployment models. There are few very popular clouds lah. Right. Amazon being one of them. Google Cloud. IBM also have their own cloud, but the one that is rising up very fast is the Azure, Microsoft Azure cloud service, right? The Amazon is very solid already, a very long time, and we know Google, right? But the one that's rising up very quick in short while is the Azure cloud from Microsoft, right? So in here, we talk about we'll introduce you to cloud computing. What does it mean? When you talk about cloud computing, where all the services I mentioned earlier on, what are the cloud architecture there? What the different models, okay? When you talk about computing using the cloud, right? What's this? Platform virtual appliances. the one I talk about, the virtualization of the machine, virtualization of the operating system, virtualization of the application, all stored there, right? So it's as if you bought your own machine on the cloud lah. I mean, you're renting. So infrastructure as a service, some cloud provide this, right? Like mentioned before, see, you can see this servers, storage, network integration, all this, and then platform as a service, right? So you can see Google App Engine, Microsoft Windows, Azure, web application frameworks, and others. Software as a service, then these are the application as you know it lah. What application that you develop, right? As I mentioned before, you write the application, but your application needs to be hosted by the OS, and OS must have a hardware to run on. Okay, so that's why the cloud provide different level, different layer of services. Okay, and then benefits and challenges for doing cloud computing, and right, talking about risks lah. What are the risks? What are the risks that related in terms of cloud? But we talk just now. We talk about the reluctance for certain maybe government agencies, or reluctant from the part of the even businesses to not trust the cloud, right? Because sometimes they don't understand and they feel like since the data center doesn't belong to them, they don't have much control, right? So is that really true? Is it really true? So that means if you are proposing cloud computing solution for your client, then you need to know this lah. The impact, strategic risk, and financial in terms of using cloud computing. If you are informed, then you can advise your organization, right? And include this one lah, security part, trust shift, and 10 security domains. Right, so that's cloud computing. Any question on it?
No.
No, okay. Right, I think this was the last one. We've covered software quality, advanced database, digital multimedia, mobile app, Internet of Things, system administration, integrative programming, cloud computing, Argyle. Now this is the last one, blockchain application development. So blockchain is a technology, and this technology, the most famous use of this technology is for cryptocurrency. Okay, so cryptocurrency exists because of this algorithm, this blockchain algorithm. So that means blockchain is not only for cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is just one of the application that took off. Okay, took off very, very well, but it is based on blockchain technology. So that's why it says here blockchain application development, because this technology, this algorithm is agnostic to cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is just one of the application that you can base on blockchain. That means you can create others like NFTs. Okay, I believe you know NFTs, yeah. So NFTs is another application based on blockchain, right? So in this course, you want to find out what is the blockchain, because maybe you're interested to come up with idea of the next app that using blockchain technology, right? So basically, what is this blockchain? Traditionally, traditional application, if you want to, remember the triple A that we have, authorization, authority, and also accounting, right? So basically, your application will perform some kind of transaction, right? For those applications that have some transaction capability, the thing is, how do you keep track of those transactions and who is allowed to do that? One of the very difficult thing to do, let's say, let's look at cryptocurrency. cryptocurrency, before cryptocurrency, all your digital currency is basically flow of information centralized in the bank server, right? So the bank controls the server, controls the flow of that digital currency. Of course, when I say digital currency, this is a representation of the amount of real money that you have with that bank, with that bank. So let's say you have 10,000. So digitally, you can play around with 10,000. It means you can use it to pay, and all this flow is centralized in. It means it's flow from one bank to another merchant to whatever, but it's controlled centrally by the bank, right? The thing is, there's a lot of places where a hacker can basically manipulate the transfer of the digital currency, right? So first of all, you of course you trust your bank yourself, but there are cases where uh, employees within the bank actually manipulate the banking system to extract money. The most famous one I recall is the Baring case for that one is the investment company, right? The guy in Singapore, he manipulated and got a lot of money out of it, and people found out about it, and so and this is the basically the weakness of traditional digital currency. So what about crypto? Why is crypto so good? Well, because of this blockchain. Meaning to say, in order to generate, I mean, the transaction that you need to have, you need some kind of hash. The hash comes from uh, any generated any computing machine that participate in the creation of the hash, right? And in order for you to tamper with the value represented by the blockchain, you have to tamper each of the corresponding hash along the chain. That's why it's called blockchain, right? And it's quite impossible for you as a hacker to go and manipulate by hacking each one of the machine that produce the hash, right? In order to, to tamper with the transaction. Whereas in a traditional one, you only need to go into the server and tamper there, right? And you can even for the log file, you can even tamper that log file and hide your forensically hide your digital footprint, right? But for blockchain, you can't because it's distributed. All the hashes combine to create another hash, combine to create another hash. So if you are a hacker, you need to go back and change or modify all the you know the app that's creating the hash key from all the different distribution machine, and it doesn't no one actually own the whole thing. Each of them own only the machine where it produced one of the hash, right? A hash is basically just a long uh, number randomly generated, okay, by a function inside the machine, right? So you can see that provides immutability, cannot change. Or if you want to change, you can, but it's impossible because you have to change all the link, all the machine and the link, their software there. You have to go back and manipulate the change bit to hide your forensic footprint. So transparency, security, efficiency, and data validity. But there is a comment that this is actually not very green. Cryptocurrency is not very green. Why? Because the generation of the hash uses a lot of electrical power, right? Use a lot of electrical power lah. That's how the illegal um, creation of the hash keys can easily be traced by SESB. You know, you read some place where they raid like a house where and then you saw a lot of hash machine uh, creating the hash for cryptocurrency because they use a lot of power, and SCSB can track power drainage, right? So not very green lah. So even nowadays people are finding ways for for converting this technology to a greener alternative, lah, right? So yeah, the use of blockchain technology is not limited to cryptocurrency. So as I mentioned before, example Bitcoin. There are many others, but because it's Bitcoin example, cryptocurrency based on blockchain technology. So you can use this technology on any other application where you need this immutability, transparency, security, efficiency, and data validity. Right? The thing is, you basically once you trust that the generation of that transaction because of this this way is no longer temperable. You cannot tamper with it, right? Because I mentioned the simplified version just now, right? So it's good for anything, any transaction, any application that needs to generate transaction that is that you want to protect from being tampered with, right? Why do you trust that one NFT product that costs so much is the one and only original and no other digital copy that is the one copy? And because of this also lah, that's why NFT is another application based on blockchain. You trust this one, the transparency and the immutability cannot be changed. If you change, you can tell straight away, right? So content, the course learning outcome, examining blockchain. That means you understand what is blockchain technology, the type of blockchain and blockchain platform, right? And then you will produce. That means as your assignment, I guess, produce one blockchain-based application using a selected blockchain platform. Then cooperate to build one blockchain-based application in a team, right? So these two are combined, I guess, right? You can see in the team is effective. Creating that application is psychomotor, hands-on, and then the theory part is on cognitive. Again, examination, test, assignment, right? Right? Test. So that means transferable skill will be your cognitive, the knowledge you gain from this, and interpersonal skills where you develop the application. Right. So these are the content. Right. Content of it. Introduction to blockchain. Again, discovering the blockchain technology, and one of the platform is Ethereum. Ethereum is an implementation of the blockchain algorithm. Okay. So you can use a Ethereum platform. There's another type called Hyperledger platform. So I think you have two platforms that you're going to look at. And then advanced topics in terms of security, token standards, right? Ledger technology, and then after that is the labs. Okay. Public key cryptography, the hash function. I mentioned about hash functions just now, creation of hash function. All those machine that got that produce it. You can actually, the thing is this, if you can produce hashes every time you're rewarded, with a small amount of Bitcoin, whenever you produce hash, this is to encourage you to help creating the hash. The hash is the one that helps with to provide the the transaction transparency, right? So not a single central organization creating hash. It's distributed among everyone. Anyone can produce a hash. So that's why it's distributed, right? So this a lot of people don't realize in order to make money out of the creation of the hash, you have to produce hash minus cost, which is electricity and the cost of your machine. So and then basically it's not a lot, right? But some people, they the one that got busted by CSB is they don't want to do. I think some of them really they steal the line, they steal the electricity, so they don't have to pay electricity, right? And of course that's illegal, right? So you take that one of the costs away, then it's become profitable, lah, right? Yeah, right. And the lab involved with Ethereum, okay, and Deb's front end, Hyperledger, Fabric, and I think yeah, maybe one or two labs on Hyperledger, but it focus more on Ethereum platform, lah. Right. Right. So that's it. Any?
Is this a steep learning curve?
Sorry. Can you speak louder? No.
Is this a require steep learning curve?
If we will say that, you ask me about that. I think the hard part is only this one lah. Like they don't because there's a paper on the algorithm written by that guy who disowned the project because I don't know, I forgot already why lah. There's a paper detailing it. It's very complex paper because a lot of it has actually got maths, right? But once it's implemented into platform, you guys just use the platform. Okay, so you're basically the user of the technology, and to make the technology available in an application to the user, right? So you don't touch on the algorithm itself, right? Maybe you understand what it does in a in an easier way, yes, okay. But here you learn about it lah, right? What is the blockchain? How does it work, and all these things. But the algorithm itself, the hard part, I don't think you need to. This course doesn't delve into that lah.
Oh.
Yeah, because yeah, the algorithm itself. If you read the paper, you can Google for it. The original paper by that guy, the guy that invented it, right? Who I'm not sure whether I read before he actually washed his hand off it lah. But you can read again what's the latest update. Did he come back to it? And then and you will find that the paper you need to read several times to actually understand the maths behind it. But for the implemented platform that you're going to use, right? It's basically a library. If you know the concept of blockchain, how it's used, and what do you use it for, and when you're doing the application itself, the assignment, it's basically using the platform already, using the API, the library lah, basically.
Oh.
And then I think you focus more on what application can benefit from using blockchain. That's the thing. And in fact, a lot of startup is thinking that, developers creating startup to come up with the next killer app based on blockchain.
A lot of people make.
Yeah, not a lot of people try, but again, sometimes those toys that the kids use, like there's the hole is round, then you try to put in square. So that means not all application suitable to be blockchain application. The key is which application for what purpose is suitable for blockchain. Apparently, cryptocurrency is. Apparently, NFTs is. So what else, right? And this is an open question because this is new technology, right? I believe any transaction that you want to benefit from this blockchain technology, any transaction you can think of may be suitable, right? Okay, then you have to find the use case lah. What kind of transaction for which kind of application, right? It's a solution finding problem. Usually the problem finds solution, right? Noel, Kelvin, and Farah, right? Usually you think of in terms of that, right? You have a problem, then you try to find a solution, correct?
Yeah.
For me, blockchain is a solution that we try to find a problem for.
Oh.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because blockchain technology is new, right? And we're wondering what can we use blockchain for? So it's a solution. Solution of what? Solution of this. Okay,
This one teach
but what is the problem? Which problem can be solved with this, with application? What is the application that is suitable to use blockchain on? This is the question, right? All right. So for this course, Ray mentioned, you learn about the blockchain, so in more detail. So this one is the last one, I think. After this, no more. Yeah, next one is MP already. Right. So I hope the description just now allows you guys to have a better idea. I take a lot of time on your networking, but I think now is the revision period. We'll talk about the revision. But I hope after I explain the course, right, you guys have a better idea for selection. The thing is, after next semester, you have another opportunity to choose another option from the list of the elective courses, right? So that's why I took this chance to just explain all of them so that you have a better idea for the next semester as well, right? So and for fairer, I will try to confirm in your situation how to proceed for that, lah. All right. So and it may or may not affect Kelvin and Noel's choice for the mobile app. I will have to check with our faculty, right, about that one. All right. So any question about the courses we discussed?
Is there a list for who teach which subject?
Oh, this one, I don't think I think I have, but it's not confirmed list, lah, right?
Oh.
Yeah, not confirmed list. I'm allocating also, but I'm also working on at the moment. I'm working on some of it, lah. I already identified the lecturer to teach, lah, right? But some of it not yet, right? So when I have a list, complete list, then I will share, lah. I will share with you guys. Is that okay, Noel?
Okay. And when's the final submission for the choosing the elective?
Oh, in fact, normally for next semester one, I need to know now, lah. So since you guys already selected mobile, then but I want to ask Farah's situation first because we need to receipt for that one. So see whether it affect you two guys or not. I don't know, lah. I just have to check first, right?
Okay.
And for the next semester, you can tell me your options next semester. Don't have to tell now.
Okay.
Yeah. So that means next semester is your year 2 semester 3. So the semester after is year 3 semester 1. So for year 3 semester 1 selection, which is May semester, right? You can inform me next semester. Okay. Okay. So next semester's elective is now. That's why now I'm asking you guys. All right. So that's it for that one. Again, please do your revision. You can do the yesterday again. I think that yesterday the one that SBA dry one is a good exercise to do to practice, right? And if you have any question while you're doing your revision for the SBA, let me know. You guys know that you have 6 hours consultation per lecturer per week, right? It's only to find the time suitable for both party, right? You and your lecturer agree, then you can have the meeting, right? So for you guys, you have 6 hours with all the lecturers that teaching you the subject this semester, right? So that means you can approach them and ask for, if you have questions about regarding your current courses lah, right? Maybe you need help, maybe you need guidance. You can arrange with them, let them know, and then the two of you agree. Can be in a personal or can be a group, right? Group meet. Yeah. When we were face to face, I always have the student, like for me lah, my student, and also other lecturers. I see their own consultation lah. Student come and meet them. They're doing tutorial. They're stuck, and then they ask how to do. They're doing revision. They ask the lecturer how to do certain. Maybe they don't know how to do things like that. Consultation lah, right? So if you guys, while you're doing your revision, if you need some help, if it can be helped, very short question, then by PMing me on the WhatsApp is okay. If you need longer time, maybe we can discuss a couple of questions. Maybe you need some guidance how to answer it. Especially now that we have SBA next week. If you find any difficulties, let me know, right? Then we can arrange the suitable time to get to work on it together. All right. So how are you guys? The last thing I want to talk about is your proposal. Okay. So Farah and Calvin also, you guys are still working on it or submitted already or how?
Oh, still finalizing. Still
Okay.
Not yet.
Right. Yeah.
finished.
That means even that one, if you are facing difficulty, you have to tell, for example, Noel, I'm supervising for Noel. So, and for Farah and Kelvin, you have to approach. I think your supervisor is Sue, right? You have to approach her. She also very experienced because she's been developing software before, right? And in real industrial capacity, right? I done that very early on before I continue my further study lah. But means she might have insights into any kind of questions you have, right? So that's what supervisors are there for. You have to approach your supervisor not only to provide update, but to maybe if you have some ideas but you're not sure. Not necessarily just problems you can share, but you also can share, ideas that you have. See, you bounce it off against your supervisor to see, oh, this one, okay or not? I do like this, like this. What do you think? And then sometimes they can suggest the technology, the tools that you can use. Okay, right? All right. So I think that's it for today. Any questions on any aspects?
So far, no.
No.
The admin only use Linux.
Yeah, that one is using Linux. Yeah, I know there's the other server platform is Windows Server. Windows Server basically, as far as I know, there is a professional certification for Windows Server administration. Windows Server administration slightly different because Windows Server they typically don't use command line. You can by using PowerShell, but they basically use the standard GUI lah, right? And then you have to embed yourself with Microsoft technology lah, like what they call it, the domain, but they don't call it domain already. It's called AD. I remember the acronym, but it's a way for you to centralize the user base of your user, and then talk about group policy. That means you can set up. I think it's MCSE. MCSE, the name of the certification for Windows Server. It's a different way to manage the server. Okay, that's the other alternative. Okay, I think the reason why for us we focus on the Linux is because the Linux is the most popular. If you check Google, in terms of server, because it's open standard, open source, Linux is the one that is most popular, right? Even with IBM usually produce a very powerful hardware in terms of server. For example, their blade server, they even have supercomputer, and I think they're working. They're deploying their own OS, but it's based on Unix. It's their own proprietary Unix implementation, right? So if you learn Linux, you feel right at home using Unix, right? So there are only two camps lah. The way I see it on a high performance operating system, either you go for Unix/Linux or Windows Server. Windows Server is also good. I'm not saying it's not good, but it's limited to Microsoft, Microsoft punya lah, right? Whereas if you learn Linux, you can transfer knowledge to one of the other platform, hardware platform. One of the thing that I want to always show the students when they start teaching them Bash command shell line, is that if you look into Mac, you can open if you open a command line, it's basically Bash in the Mac OS. And then if you open, and then of course you run many different type of distribution, Linux distribution also called Bash. If you root into your Android phone, you can open the Bash command line. Transferable, the commands you learn. And then if you go into Unix, maybe a mainframe, yeah, the commands you learn Bash in the Linux transferable to that as well. So you can leverage your knowledge on the command line, Bash command line shell on many other platforms. You go into embedded system, Raspberry Pi, same thing, right? Okay, so yes, ideally, if you want to know both, you can do both lah. Linux administration, server administration, and Windows Server administration, right? But I think for our course, this one is to try to maximize your transferability of your knowledge. Yeah, to answer your question, Calvin.
Yeah.
Yeah. And okay, so if no other question, I think we dismiss now. I will keep in touch with all of you about the elective, the one I want to check with for fairer case. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Everyone. All right.